Chapter 12, Part 1, What is Stress? Remember, this lecture is supplemental to reading the textbook. Stress is widely defined as a negative emotional state occurring in response to events that are perceived as taxing or exceeding a person's resources or ability to cope. Whether we experience stress depends largely on our cognitive appraisal of an event and the resources we have to deal with the event. Health psychology, also sometimes referred to as behavioral medicine, is the branch of psychology that studies how biological, behavioral, and social factors influence health, illness, medical treatment, and health-related behaviors. Health psychologists are guided by the Biopsychosocial Model, which is the belief that health and illness are determined by the complex interaction of biological factors, psychological and behavioral factors, and social conditions. Sources of stress. Life is filled with potential stressors, which are events or situations that produce stress. Life events and change. Is any change stressful? Measure the amount of stress people experienced. Early stress researchers Holmes and Ray developed the Social Readjustment Rating Scale, which included 43 life events that require some level of adaptation. Each life event was assigned a numerical rating that estimates its relative impact in terms of life change units. Holmes and Ray found that people who had more than 150 life change units within a year had an increased rate of physical or psychological illness. Several problems with the life events approach have been identified. The link between scores on the Social Readjustment Rating Scale and the development of physical and psychological problems is relatively weak. The Social Readjustment Rating Scale does not take into account a person's subjective appraisal of an event, response to that event, or ability to cope with the event. The life events approach assumes that change in itself, whether good or bad, produces stress. Today, most researchers agree that undesirable events are significant sources of stress, but that change in itself is not necessarily stressful. Daily hassles. That's not what I ordered. Stress researcher Richard Lasserth and colleagues developed a scale to measure daily hassles, everyday occurrences that annoy and upset people. There are gender differences in the frequency and experience of daily stress. One study of married couples found that women experience both more daily hassles and higher levels of psychological stress than did their husbands. The most common sources of daily stress for men are financial and job-related. For women, the most common sources are family demands and interpersonal conflict. When women experience stress, it is more likely to spill over into interactions with their family. Men tend to withdraw. The number of daily hassles is linked to both psychological distress and physical symptoms, and is a better predictor of physical illness than is the number of major life events experienced. One reason that daily hassles can take a toll on us is that such minor stressors are cumulative. Social and cultural sources of stress. People live in an environment that is inherently stressful. They often experience ongoing or chronic stress. People in the lowest socioeconomic levels of society tend to have the highest levels of psychological distress, illness, and death. The stress of adapting to a new culture. The process of changing one's values and customs as a result of contact with another culture is referred to as acculturation. Acculturative stress is the stress that results from the pressure of adapting to a new culture. There are 4 possible patterns of acculturation. Integrated individuals continue to value their original cultural customs, but also seek to become part of the dominant society. This results in low acculturative stress. Assimilated individuals give up their old cultural identity and try to become part of the new society. This results in moderate acculturative stress. Some individuals follow the separation pattern. They maintain their cultural identity and avoid contact with the new culture. This pattern, which may be self-imposed or the result of discrimination, results in high accumulative stress. Marginalized individuals lack cultural and psychological contact with both cultural groups. This results in the highest level of accumulative stress. Conflict is the feeling of being pulled between two or more opposing desires, motives, or goals. Three basic types of conflicts are described in terms of approach and avoidance. An individual is motivated to approach desirable or pleasant outcomes and to avoid undesirable or unpleasant outcomes. An approach conflict represents a win-win situation. You're faced with a choice between two equally appealing outcomes. Such conflicts are usually easy to resolve and don't produce much stress. Do I want cake or do I want cookies? More stressful are avoidance conflicts, choosing between two unappealing or undesirable outcomes. Do I want to take out the trash or clean the toilet? Most stressful are approach-avoidance conflicts. A single goal has both desirable and undesirable aspects. People often vacillate, unable to decide whether to approach or avoid the goal. I want to go out with Sally, but first I have to meet her mean dad.